Hello everyone, Sanjin here with a vlog, and I'm going to do more of these casual ones where I share with you something interesting I saw online or live. Incidentally, this was this Friday. I got dragged along to a talk in the Melbourne Museum about AI and the future of work. And, fascinating topic as it is. I managed to find it online, and I'd like to share it with all you guys, especially you're all interested in robotics and programming, and I think that we all should think a bit more about A, the entrepreneurship opportunities that the skill set provides us, and B, the impact on the world, not necessarily a positive one. So I'm going to minimize myself, and I'm going to show you like an excerpt from this talk. So a bit of an intro first. I think we've got Mr. Tim Dunlop, who is an author, and he wrote a book, The Future is Workless. He sort of presented some long-term trends with automation and employment. And I mean, as far as, full-time, reliable jobs with healthcare, those are going down at an ever faster rate. I mean, and every single job that automation creates, it replaces 6. And that sort of trend has held for a long time. So he brought up a few points about essentially there being a huge group of disenfranchised people whose skills, at least for a long period of time, of maybe 5 to 10 years, however long it's going to take for either of them to retire and for the new generation or them to be retrained, there's going to be, a long period of disenfranchisement of people that had very steady, well-paying, reliable jobs. Then what we have here is Miss Veronica Sheen. I think she's a researcher from Monash Uni who looked into sort of negative trends in the workplace that sort of modern technologies and automation brought about. She was a bit of a downer, but she made some good points. I mean, she said that we're monitored a lot in our workplaces more than ever before, and people find it sort of difficult to work under those conditions. I certainly wouldn't like it. If somebody put a bunch of sensors on me, I would hack all of them and give them rubbish data. But anyway, what I want to point out is what this dude in the middle said. Now, bear with him, he's, what's his name? Alexar, oh man, I'm going to butcher this. Pendashte. I believe he's originally from Iran, but he's a very bright man who does consulting in sort of software and automation areas. And he brought up some points about data being so important and, in a way, the future limit to sort of entrepreneurship and, in a way, a real problem in terms of consolidation of power within our society. So I'm just going to play this clip and comment a little bit afterwards. But guys, pay attention, and the links to the whole talk are below.
So we all know that now we've seen this trend that corporates were struggling with keeping their employees, and employees would get out of corporates, they would start their own business. We've got a startup as a word right now. 10 years ago, it wasn't a word. If you would quit your job, people would think you're out of your mind or something. But now we've got a startups, entrepreneurship is flourishing because of availability and accessibility of the new technologies. And this gets back to the open source software and also computing power and everything. So that has been the trend, but it's not going to continue, because what was driving that change, is that a good way of saying it?
Driving.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
No worries.
What was helping us to get here, now the source of power is changing to something else. It's not about computing power, it's not about accessibility to free software and to technology and anything. It's going to become about the data, right? So anyone who has access to data could predict the future and could reduce their costs, could basically come with a service that people with, or companies or organizations without having access to that knowledge are nowhere near that. Right now, Amazon is coming to Australia. How many people have heard of that news?
Yeah.
Right, good, yeah, awesome. So retail industry. So Amazon is already patented something called predictive purchase or something like that. I forgot the actual term. So basically, they with a very good likelihood, they could tell what you're going to purchase, and they're going to send it to you, right? So before you even do that, they're working on that. So in this world, no other retailer, no other shop could actually compete with this. Amazon is already getting rid of all the human in their warehouses. That's a traditional way of looking at replacement of human with robots per person, or robot per 6 people. But now it's totally disturbing the whole industry. So part of the industry is not needed anymore. And it can only do that because of the access it has to the information, right? So we should recognize that if we want to live in a world where entrepreneurship explodes and flourishes, if, for example, if we see that future, if we're there like in 20, 30 years, if we want to have this power that wanting something, thinking of something, and that thing appearing in front of us, which is not really science fiction-y, given that we've got access to all these brain hybrid technologies that could read our brain and know what we want, and 3D printing and nanotechnology and biotechnology and all sort of thing. We could be there, but we won't if we don't manage the data, the ownership of the data. At the moment, there is absolutely no trend or no will to bring the ownership back to those who are basically creating that. At the moment, because we're not aware of the importance of it, and those who are aware, they're not really talking about it. So all these services that you use, look at your app. They are probably 90% of them are owned by 5 companies in America, probably. So there might be different small apps, but they're all, and it's continuing. If you look at the acquisition in Silicon Valley, now all a startup needs to do is basically to prove that they can collect data. The moment they prove that, they will be bought by another giant, right? So they are collecting all the information, and in that world, there will be no place for you and I to start a business because we don't have access to any information. So I'm not going to talk about the privacy stuff and stuff like that. There has been a fantastic panel a few nights ago as part of Melbourne Knowledge Week. I encourage you to look it up. It was called Data Privacy. It happened at Wheel Center near State Library. Look it out. It takes care of the personal, individual, and privacy aspect of it. But I'm talking about the business. If we want to be able to come with ideas that could make a change in our local area, in our society, for our niche that we know, social enterprise, right? Without having access to data, we can't do anything. And at the moment, to be able to do those stuff, you have to go through big companies, and they have the control. You have to apply and all sort of things. So there's no way that we would see this explosion of entrepreneurship. So that's my point. I can get there. If you want, I can explain more. I'm going to speak about the journey. So the way that things are happening right now are so fast and so crazy. Even people in technology, they're getting shocked every day, right? I know some people in technology here, like my friend here he's like a machine learning, artificial intelligence. He's in the industry, and every day, like every time that we catch up, we talk about a new thing. It's so fast that there's no time for anyone in the policymaking authority or even some corporates to catch up with this speed. And because of that, everything is a chaos, and the only thing that is moving this thing is the market force, right? So when the market force is the only controlling thing, all the social aspects, so the fragile part of the society will not be taken care of, and no one will take care of what would happen if we come with this thing, but in 2 years, this will basically make 20% of our society not being able to do anything. And so when it's the only market force is the only thing, when I'm a business, I'm just thinking of my balance, what is balance sheet at the end of the year, and I won't be really worrying about those things. And also, there's no really infrastructure for having conversations between government and policymakers and small businesses, what they want and how they can work with each other. What I'm seeing is right now, all the efforts to bring work back to people is basically, they're talking to the wrong person. So they're trying to force businesses to use, it doesn't work.
So, yeah, that part blew my mind. I mean, for entrepreneurship to flourish in a modern world, you need like a level playing field. And the informational asymmetry, the advantage that, companies like Google and Facebook have in terms of knowing, and Amazon and probably a couple more have, is they're virtually capable of predicting the future. They are predictable, they're capable of predicting people's wants, needs. They can market products to people better than anybody else. And, in a world where a new company would start up and compete with that, you would have to have equal access to the data. And no signs of that happening. In fact, there is ever more consolidation. All the apps that have millions of users, whether or not they make any money, even if they're losing money, as long as they have millions of users and they're collecting a lot of data, they all get acquired by bigger companies who then basically, use that data as an asset rather than income. So there is no positive trend when it comes to data. And consolidation of data into very few places is consolidation of power. And it really is something scary. I mean, the scariest thing I heard from this talk. Personally, I'm cool with robots taking over and jobs disappearing. Maybe I'm cool with it because I have a technical robotics background. But this sort of an even playing field that is geared towards a small handful of, Fortune 500 companies that have this abundance of data. That's pretty scary. And, I suggest you watch the entire talk, and I wonder what you guys think about it. I wonder if you have some counterexamples of, perhaps this data being available to anyone that aspires to do good with it. There was in the talk one good example of something called GovHack that I want to cover in the future, which is essentially, Australian Bureau of Statistics and whichever Australian governmental organizations gather data, they give access to it to people who then try to come up with product designs to, for some really positive social enterprises. But okay, so much for that. Check out the whole talk, and I'll see you later. And yeah, subscribe and click the bell. Bell's good, please. Catch up.